Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night wherever you're in the world, and welcome to another episode of Endurance Chat. My name is Mike Salavari, and today we are wrapping up the Super Sebring weekend, and with me I have the merry cans of the Endurance Chat podcast, Cookie Monster FL, Austin Zetzman, and Kris Washer 97. Good evening for you guys, lads. Good evening.
Howdy. Good evening to you. Happy to bring some freedom into the Endurance Chat podcast.
Thanks, Kris.
Your sigh just said everything there, Austin. Amazing. Super Sebring. Just quickly, what did we think? Kris, we'll start with you.
Loved it.
Loved it?
Yep.
Cool. Cookie, what about yourself?
Loved it.
Nice. You were there, weren't you?
I was. Wow, good guess. Good guess.
Amazing. I can't believe that. Tell us.
I know, you're like 2 for 2 right now.
Yeah, tell us about your experience at the track. Was the Super Sebring as super at the track as it looked on the broadcasts?
Yeah, it was the most crowded I've ever seen it. So I don't know of a time where it possibly could have been more crowded than it was. And it got crowded pretty much from Thursday onward, which is nuts. I remember coming to the track 10 years ago, and it was like you could still find places to camp pretty much on Friday. And most of the time, a lot of that main strip in Green Park, which is just like part of like almost not a runway, but like just an off-ramp kind of thing for it, which is pretty still wide as it is. They use it for the club track at Sebring for the pit road. That usually gets occupied Friday night for like all the high schoolers and stuff. That was packed by Thursday. Like you literally had to go all the way down. Cars were just packed already there. I mean, it was crazy. So just by far and away the most crowded it's ever been there. The weather was awesome. It was threatening rain at the end of the weekend. It warmed up, but didn't really get too hot. Didn't really get too cold either. It was definitely a welcome climate for me, at least, just being in a lot of cold weather races the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Just being like constantly getting barraged with them. So it was good to have a normal Sebring where you're not melting your face off. So or dying of hypothermia. Right. So, but yeah, they had some new page stuff in the infield, which was really cool. We had some special guests come by the campsite. We're on the wall officially, second year in a row next to turn 10.
Yeah.
And so that was awesome. And just saying hi to old friends and enjoying pints of Guinness in the Maison Blanche. And yeah, always an enjoying time. Mike, you're gonna have to come out at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the video call like 20 minutes before the IMSA race started. I really enjoyed that.
That's what we call a butt dial over here. So yeah, it was crazy that I actually just decided to video call you too. I was just like, all right, cool. Well, let's do that.
I guess
because the internet was terrible the entire weekend. I'm still like shocked that we were able to get like. So I'm sure it's a whole different, using up different data, but. I was like, all right, we can do video chat. Let's do it. I haven't been able to use my internet all week, so yeah, that was fun.
Just as well, quickly, you guys had a very particular campsite with like 4 big flag towers that had like the Toyota Gazoo Racing and the WEC and the old IMSA flags and even the R/WEC flag on there as well. Did you guys realize that you were on the broadcast like 8 times between the WEC and the IMSA broadcasts?
No, because we couldn't get the any data we have a TV at the campsite too, so we were trying to get some of the stream up. We couldn't get anything working like the entire weekend unless it was like somebody with a brand new 5G phone, something like that. Then we could kind of get connected. So, and I haven't even rewatched any of it yet either, so I need to check that out just to see how it was. But we tried to be really obnoxious this year to hopefully get some eyeballs. So if that's the case, then we succeeded. It
works. Kris and I will attest to this. You guys were on TV, like the campsite was on TV like 8 times.
And more importantly, my NASCAR Camping World Truck Series flag got a little nod on the broadcast as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I'll definitely have to check those out. If we got timestamps, let me know, guys.
Yeah, there was one point where they were doing like the class wrap up during the how they do like the hourly updates in the WEC broadcast where they'll show like the whole running order. They just did that with like your flags in the campsite in the background.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Like, this is great.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of screen caps in the next couple weeks here from me as I rewatch all this stuff. Because, I want to take some screenshots of that. There was one of the best parts, too, of the weekend. I think it was Thursday. we were all kind of hanging out. I think there was qualifying, WC qualifying was coming up or something. It was in between broadcasts. And the guy on turn 10, the cameraman, I don't know, the guy, like they have a whole scaffolding built now for him for like shade and stuff.
Yeah.
Looks way less sketchy than it used to be. But for some reason, he just was like, okay, well, whatever. I'm just going to keep the camera pointed towards turn 9. I'm just going to start doing push-ups. So, like, I don't even know when he started, but I just started noticing him do that. So, like, all of us are just standing there, I think waiting for dinner or something like that. So I start yelling, like, from our campsite. I'm like, 1, 2. So all of the guys, like, 5 of us are, like, yelling. And the dude's, like, doing push-ups and stuff. And then after he's done, we all cheer. And he's just, like, raising his hands and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, cool. We got to ham up the camera guy so he can, sometimes wander over to our site every now and then. So maybe that worked. That was a lot of fun too. He at least acknowledged us screaming at him, just looking at him doing push-ups.
That's amazing. That's hilarious. One other final thing that you showed us about your campsite and the time down there was that you had a visitor at your campsite. Tell us a bit about having Graham Goodwin come down and hang out with you guys.
Oh yeah, the goofball. Yeah, okay. I'll talk about that. Oh, he's awesome. We were saying before we started recording, or I was saying that he's just a lot of the guys that kind of like I don't want to say loosely follow sports cars, but they're not as hardcore as some other fans I know that like have heard of Graham Goodwin, but like they just kind of like seeing the actual editor of it and talking to him, and a couple of them were like, man, I can't believe he's that weird. Like he's just like us. He's such a goofball kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, that's the perfect description for him too. Cause he was awesome. Just awesome spirit. Just kind of hanging out at the campsite, and engaging with all of us, asking us personal questions, that kind of thing. And, like showing that he cares. He was even, being a champ, fighting off some, a buddy of ours got a little too toasted on alcohol that early in the afternoon, but he was holding a conversation that way too. That was great.
Just quickly, when you say toasted, are we talking like Kris waking up in the back of someone else's van toasted, or?
Just before that.
Okay.
So like,
Kris, you're still setting the standard.
On the way, yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. He's definitely by far has set the standard for escapades at Sebring. Let's just leave it at that. Kris, you're like Hall of Fame in terms of our campsite right now, man. Like, not even a question.
Amazing. Fantastic. Oh, it's great to hear that you had an awesome weekend, and it looked from like my perspective watching it as well, that it looked like, you're right, the place looked absolutely packed, and some of the aerial shots we got of just like how packed the facility was, the campgrounds, the parking and everything, it was kind of wild. So yeah, hot damn.
I have a quick question. Did you guys see any bubbles at all near turn 10? I was trying to spray them a lot, and I don't think it was really possible to see unless they're going really slow, but there was definitely some.
Yeah, I can't say I saw them on any broadcast over the weekend.
Okay. We had them going pretty well for the Mitchell Pilot Sport Challenge. Like we definitely knew that they were going on track, like past them, and the marshals didn't care. Like half the time they were just laughing at it. So there was just like, there's a few times where the wind was right, bubbles just flying on the track, like literally. And then at night too, if I'd have them on and the wind was blowing, the overhead lights would, like, you could see it. It looked like it literally looked like it was either pollen or it was like snow, because it was just like slowly flowing through the light and stuff. It was crazy.
Oh, that's
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, so it was like all around turn 10. I even ran out of juice like on Thursday, so ordered an Amazon delivery to a local vendor in Sebring, downtown Sebring. So I went and go and picked up some bubble juice from Amazon on Friday. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, I'll have to go back and have a look and see if I can see anything.
Yeah, we were trying to slick the track up in turn 10, but if you do see any bubbles ever on any of the rebroadcasts of this year's Super Sebring, it probably came from our campsite. So there you go.
Fantastic. Cool. So we should actually talk about some racing now, and I want to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk. We'll talk about WC first. Let's just give because this is the first time we've seen like Hypercar in its fully fledged LMH, LMDH combined form with, what we had, 11 entrants in the Super Sebring, or the 8 hours, or the 1,000 miles, which never gets to 1,000 miles, but 8 hours. I wanted to give a bit of a report card on where all of the manufacturers and the competitors kind of stack at the moment after we've seen them at the prologue and at round one. So that's what we're going to do today to start with. And we'll start with the guys right off the bat. They've been doing this now for 10 years, and you can tell that they're doing it for 10 years because they were the class of the weekend, Toyota Gazoo Racing. Is there anything that Toyota can do wrong? Because they seem to just be doing everything right still.
Not really. I mean, what they had was a perfect race. I mean, you take a look at the results. They won by, 2 laps?
Yeah.
And that was the case of just everyone was just making mistakes, and Toyota... apart from maybe that emergency stop in the middle of the race for Toyota, I can't remember which one it was. They ran flawlessly. I mean, we had the pit stop mishaps from AF Corsa in the first safety car period or the first full Corsa period that kind of messed things up from their end. Cadillac and Porsche, they just weren't up to the pace on for Toyota. So it really, Toyota has... it kind of frustrated me because there is people like, oh, people said Toyota are going to have competition. They do. It's just everyone else messed up. and from what we've seen from Sebring, and Sebring is really, let's be honest, it's quite an anomaly compared to the rest of the calendar. I mean, compared to what we saw at Sebring, AF Corsa can challenge Toyota. They just need to stop messing up.
And I think that's an important point you make, Kris. We'll talk a bit more about Ferrari a bit later on, but they were certainly challenged, but the advantage that Toyota Gazoo Racing has over everyone else at the moment is that they've been doing this for 10 years. You know, they started in the World Endurance Championship in, 2012? So they've had a long time to get these processes in place. Cookie, from the track, what did it look like from your perspective? What did the Toyotas have over everyone else?
Consistency, reliability, probably experience. I mean, they didn't look like they were that much quicker than everybody else, but they were just there all the time, consistently, like hammering away lap times, overtaking lap cars, just executing strategy and pit stops. Visually, the thing that I noticed that I didn't see live on TV was Sunset Bend, turn 17. Halfway through that corner, they have that exit cam that kind of looks at all the cars, and you just saw how smooth the Toyotas were, and everybody else, without a question, was chattering. Or at least the, suspension was not super happy and comfortable. The Toyotas just looked unreal. I mean, they just people say definitions of on rails. Like, if you wanted to actually see that definition in reality, like, that's what the Toyotas look like because of how insanely bumpy Sebring is. Like, the cars look like they were on a normal purpose-built racetrack, at least to my observation, looking at turn 17 just visually. So from that end, it was just like, okay, well, unless the Ferraris are making crazy amounts of pace, like, that can't be necessarily the greatest on their tire wear. And we kind of did see that play out with their double stints not necessarily being as on the pace as the Toyotas were too. So, obviously they had issues with, we'll talk about AF Corsa and Ferrari later, but obviously aside, I still think the Toyotas had easily had the pace, especially with their tire management to control the field, had AF Corsa not kind of messed up their pit strategy early, I guess, if you want to say it was messed up. So very dominating, though. It was very dominant.
Yeah, so in that, what would we give Toyota if we were going to give them a grade? Like A plus, or just an A?
A.
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 So we're very happy.
Executed flawlessly. Yeah.
Big tip. AF Corsa, we mentioned them. Surprise pole position. We got to say that there was no expectation for anyone other than Toyota to take pole position based on what we saw in the prologue and what we saw in practice. Surprise pole position for, I think it was Forco behind the wheel. What a drive that was. Didn't quite materialize in the race. They were in a competitive position, but as we made mention, lacking consistency. And then there was that accident as well that one of the drivers had. I think was it Collado had? Where they crashing into the lap cars coming into the pits. That scuppered their chances. So where do we see Ferrari? We'll go again, Kris first. How would you rate Ferrari's weekend?
I think there's really some great potential there. Like obviously we've seen in qualifying, and I don't think it was too surprising. I figured the way they're doing it in practice because they were taking it to Toyota in the practices. Um, and obviously practices don't read much into times, but compared to what we've seen in qualifying, the signs are there. On pace, I think before the pit stops, I think we've seen only in the short burst that they can keep up with the Toyotas. What I'm really curious on seeing is the long term pace. So hopefully, maybe without a pit stop mishap when they're on the same piece of track, I'm curious to see on the long term pace and see how Ferrari fares against Toyota on that.
Mm.
I figured brand new car at Sebring. I figured not the best way it could have happened for them, but I mean, it wasn't. They got pole, and that's something they could celebrate, and it shows that they have at least the speed to take on Toyota. So I think maybe like a B, maybe like a B plus in that regard, considering maybe the result wasn't what they hoped, but for what we've seen, they can definitely go for the gold.
Yeah, and they took a podium as well in their first race. Admittedly, they were 2 laps down, but still a podium in their first race in a new category with a new car at the top of sports cars. That's a pretty impressive result, Cookie.
Yeah, I don't. I don't foresee anybody really looking at this and saying that Ferrari walked away unhappy with their weekend. I do think probably internally they knew that they probably had a little bit faster car than people realized, but I mean I don't think really anybody saw their pace be kind of at the front of the field really out the gate that quickly. So yeah, I do think that that was a great weekend for them. I would also give them a B. I would really say that they're in a good spot. Like it's tough because at the same time, like there's still a hill to climb, and it's not like Toyota are vulnerable at least right now. But for the round opener, for what they had at Sebring, there's definitely going to be more tire wear there. They definitely had a little bit more heat to contend with than they did at the prologue than earlier in the week for practices. So, in terms of having an ideal weekend, I don't think they did that, and obviously their strategy sucked. But beyond that, yeah, I mean they have a lot to be proud of, to look forward to, because I think it'll probably, at least for this year, look like it's going to be Ferrari and Peugeot kind of fighting to go with the Toyota. There's a sleeper aspect with Peugeot. We'll get into that. I actually have I have lots of hype for them. Okay. Weirdly enough, but yeah.
We'll get into that a little later. I just want to quickly wrap up on Ferrari by talking about the incident into the pit lane I think we decided that it was Collado. And if it wasn't Collado, I sincerely apologize.
It's Collado. I don't care. It's Collado. We're rewriting history.
So if you haven't seen it, the situation was Collado tried to make a move around the outside of a GT car through, I think it's 13-14, the double sweeping left-hander, which kind of rolls into the entry of pit lane. I think the GT car didn't quite see him, moved out. There was a little bit of contact that put the Ferrari onto the inside concrete, locked the wheels, and it basically went straight across the track at turn 15, and I think ended up just clipping another car as well. Broke the suspension, broke a bunch of the bodywork, and took a long time to repair in the pits. Is that a LMH is slower than it used to be, so cars are not used to being passed that much? Is that a Sebring pit entry problem because that's not the normal pit entry and it's temporary? Or is that just a, multi-class crash that happens when you try and get cars of different paces running at different parts of the track? We'll go Cookie's opinion first. Cookie's thoughts first. Cookie.
Okay, me. Yeah, I mean, I think there might have been some cold tire aspect too with it potentially, or at least like how, because I know Collado had made mention too of the tire ban or the tire warmer ban.
Yeah,
the tire ban. That'd be funny if there was a tire ban.
No tires. It's hovercraft only.
Squares. So yeah, I don't know. I do think that there's some speed difference. I do think too that we're talking about a lot of GT experienced like ex drivers that are now stepping into prototypes. Sometimes for not necessarily the first time, but like still getting comfortable and used to the extra braking power and horsepower that they got, under the hood kind of thing. So I don't know. I mean, it's not necessarily like the trickiest pit entrance to nail, but it also can be deceiving if you're really right behind somebody and they all of a sudden pull in. And with the slower corner speeds of the hypercars, especially with the bumps, there could just genuinely have been a scenario where a GT car had a wide entry and then had a sharp exit, and the Ferrari was just kind of starting to slow down gently into the pits, and they just had, similar exit speeds, which definitely probably would not be this case if they were an LMP1H. But I don't know, like nothing really that crazy. In my opinion, like needs to be looked at with it. I just thought it was a kind of a freak racing accident when it came to that.
Yeah. Kris, if you're the GT car in that situation, I believe it was the other AF Corsa car, one of the number 50.
The Vista Jet. Yeah, the Vista Jet car.
Vista Jet car? What?
Yeah, the silver AF Corsa Ferrari.
Yes, yeah. So I think that is the number 54. If you're the GT driver in that situation, and you've got a hypercar on your outside, and you're trying to get into the pit lane, like what can you do?
It's tricky because the way the pit lane entry in, because basically you have a section of corners where you take you go right, then left, then right. So there's switching of the lanes regarding, because they're obviously all the drivers are going to go through the optimal line, and when you're coming at such speed, when you have a car, going into the pit lane maybe a little bit slow, it could be tough to either make that decision to just go somewhere else or avoid it. And also it was Perguidi that was involved in that crash.
There we go. Sincere apologies to James Collado.
Me personally, I think maybe they should utilize. I know there might be currently some walls that are in the way, but I can't. But it's basically the third corner till the backstretch, where there's just a ton of concrete on the inside, and I'm like, maybe in the future, they utilize more of that concrete, so maybe so cars can have basically get off track sooner and be further away from the racing line.
Yeah, it's a difficult sort of problem, especially when we've got basically two flagship categories racing at the same weekend. Normally the WEC, if they were racing at Sebring, would use the main pit lane, but of course they can't do that when IMSA's there, so it's a bit of a complex situation. We'll leave that one there. We'll talk about our next hypercar category car, and it'll be the first of the LMDH machines. We'll talk about the Cadillac. So the Cadillac seemed to have the better of the pace of the LMDH cars, finished up in 4th place on the same lap as the AF Corsa Ferrari that took 3rd. Pretty impressed with Cadillac throughout the course of the weekend. From a one-car operation, for the first time that they're using the WEC tires and the rules around the pit, the tire warmers and all the other things about WEC that's different to IMSA. Not a bad run for them. What were your thoughts on the Cadillac? We'll go Cookie first this time around.
Solid B. I might even go B plus with them.
So even though that they weren't at the outright pace of the Ferrari, which you gave a B to, you're still rating them about the same or even higher?
Yeah, why not? It's a one car team, and it's LMDH. I still don't, I don't have enough data to suggest if LMDH is a little slower in general than the LMH. So, I think it was for what they should leave Super Sebring with. I would say that they would get a B plus just from kind of, I don't know. They seem competitive, or at least fighting the best of the rest for a lot of the race. They're mixing up in the field, And again, it just seems like whenever there's an IMSA or WC switchover, especially in the GT categories, it just seems like it's really difficult to get right on the pace. But they seem like they were on it, and if BOP gets adjusted a little bit their way, they might have a shot, and they're bringing another car for Spa too. So who knows? I thought it was it was solid. They didn't really have any issues or any embarrassments, anything like that. It was just like it wasn't necessarily, they didn't have the pace, but like I'm not gonna rate everybody's weekend based on if they had Toyota pace, because everybody has good Fs. So.
Wow, Cookie throwing no punches. What about you, Kris? You satisfied with where Cadillac are at the moment?
I think I am. I think it's a very capable car. What we saw at Sebring, it gave us great entertainment, battling with the Porsche and Ferrari alike. And fourth out of 11 hypercars, that's not too bad. And also, if we're going to compare to their IMSA performance, because if I remember correctly, the LMDHs across both WEC and IMSA had the same BOP,
Oh, okay.
if not very good. And we see the 01 Cadillac dominate Sebring the 12 hours before they had, engine, or not, a car go kaboom, it got caught on fire. But then the Action Express Cadillac came and, albeit through some shenanigans, got the win at Sebring for the 12 hours. So Cadillac, very capable car. I think once we get the Portimao and Spa, I think we're going to see a very, very capable piece of kit.
Cool. They, as we mentioned, finished fourth. They were kind of, I don't want to say anonymous, but I think that's kind of where you want to be when if you first race out. Like, unless you're like really pushing out the front like Ferrari was for stretches, if you're just there and you get through to the end and you get a good result, I think that's a good result. So I'll give them a solid B for that one.
And the important bit, apart from disregarding the non-hybrid cars, they were the only ones without a teammate, without a second grid. So they couldn't share. They can't go they could go maybe to the IMSA side of things and be like, hey, and let's compare and contrast that way. But in terms of same series, same time going on track, they didn't have anybody to really have that with, compare information. They were on their own. So I think just on their own doing that with Chip Ganassi Racing, they know what they're doing. Portimao and Spa and Le Mans, because they're utilizing the same BOP asterisks for now.
Yep.
I think that's going to be very interesting to see how the Cadillac goes on from there.
Awesome. The next of the LMDH cars were the Porsches. Now, big things were expected of the Porsches. They seem to be solidly mid-pack, and then they seem to fall away pretty quickly from where we were expecting them. They finished 4 laps down on the leaders, and that was with both cars. Where do we rate Porsche's start in the World Endurance Championship with the 963? We'll go Kris this first time.
Yeah, definitely less impressive than Cadillac. It's just pure pace. They gave us some great battling for the midfield positions. But like you said, the tire fall off. It seems like they couldn't just defend their position at a long stint. So that's going to have to be something they're going to have to keep in mind and work on. Although it seemed like maybe in the IMSA race they didn't have that problem as much. They were even contending for the fight at the end for the win. So in terms of LMDH only, if we're just going to place it in an LMDH box, it has the pace. It's just maybe for the longer stints, it might not be the best car out there right now. So maybe like a B minus, because it's not a bad car. It's just we've only seen. Well, we've seen 3 races with it now.
Yeah.
But we've seen some improvements. I mean, Daytona, obviously, they had some electrical issues, and some even skill issues during the night.
Oof.
Sebring, WEC, they weren't really on the pace as much. Then IMSA Sebring, you can argue maybe there's outside factors, like it was a attrition race or whatever, but they were up there at the end. Competing for the win. So I see that as a general improvement. I'm like Cadillac. I'm excited to see what Portimao and Le Mans bring, and Spa.
And for Porsche as well, they got both of their cars home in the top six rather, ahead of all of the LMP2s, and without major incident or issue besides, the tyres falling off. Cookie, do you think Penske will be satisfied with where they're at the moment, or do you think that they're going to be looking for something to improve over the course of the next few races?
I mean, I've never seen a Penske satisfied face, a satisfied face on Penske before. That would probably be creepy if he was like satisfied ever. But no, I don't think he's satisfied. They got a C plus probably. So, I mean, it's got too much Mazda in it right now.
Oof! Wow.
Yeah, that's right. I did think Porsche was gonna nail the LMDH, but I don't know, man. This is that car is jittery. It doesn't really like to. It likes to point forward, but a lot of times that point forward just wobble a little bit. Like that thing, it's quick, but like it's a handful too. So I don't know.
Is that a Sebring problem or is that a chassis problem? Do you think?
No,
in your
it's
professional
a
amateur opinion.
My amateur opinion is a chassis problem.
Okay.
At least for right now, it looks like. Because, like the Ferrari looks kind of similar in terms of how much but it just looks more planted. Yeah. Like it just looks like the car is able to just plant itself and go, whereas the Porsche kind of seems like it's riding on top of the road more than normal,
Yeah. And that might sound, if you're not a fan of cars and racing and sports cars, that might sound a bit dumb because like all of the cars are on top of the road at all times. But it's about how the car sort of settles on the road, right? Is that what you're getting?
Yeah. Especially with the bumps, just because if you've been there enough, you could just tell when fast cars handle certain places better than others, and you can just tell the speed. So, not to say that they don't know how to produce speed and whatnot. It just seemed like they were having to, they were having to sacrifice calm and smooth driving sometimes a little bit, at least for how the car looked visually bouncing. So yeah.
So we're giving Porsche a C at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they both cars. Didn't one car have an issue, or am I thinking of the wrong race here?
Both cars finished 4 laps off the pace, so.
Right.
IMSA, maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I would definitely say from a Porsche standpoint. I mean, they basically entered in 2014 and then left in 2017, and pretty much dominated, won everything. Yeah, and so yeah, I definitely did expect them to kind of come in and at least just kind of more or less dominate LMDH, because I still personally believe LMH is the better platform. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I definitely did expect them to be at the top of the LMDH. So to see them not near it is surprising.
We'll see what happens come Portimao in 2 weeks' time. Let's go back to LMH, and a sorry story of the weekend were Peugeot. They had the last classified car of the field, finishing 26 laps down. And their other car was a retirement after 141 laps, which was 98 laps less than the leader. That car did not look happy in the prologue, in practice, in qualifying, in the race. What on earth was going on at Peugeot?
B-.
B minus?
Yeah, why not? They, I mean, okay, the weekend itself was terrible, but that car is going to be quick. Like, that car is going to be quick. If they can just figure the reliability out, and honestly, again, it's just so hard for me to actually say, like, their car is unreliable because it's still Sebring, and I don't know, but I have a weird feeling that they're going to be very, very good come Spa and Le Mans. Like, that car is going to scare people. So we'll see.
Is this going to be like the Nissan where like it's trash or doesn't even get anywhere, and then all of a sudden it's supposedly great, but then it's still trash?
Maybe, but I think the way that that car seems to actually work well, it suits Le Mans, it suits Spa. Like, Sebring is the absolute worst track for that car to do anything at. Like, I don't know. I mean, they definitely were not happy. Like, that car is not happy, and it makes sense because it doesn't have a rear wing. It has one. It does it in a different way, but that is a ground effect car more than any other car on the grid.
Yeah.
And I just, like, unless they are doing Toyota levels of suspension work where that car does not move at all over any single bump, that is just not going to make that car work well. So it completely doesn't surprise me that they were, like, out in the creek.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just, if they completely crap the bed next round, then we'll talk about, then I'll start eating crow about it. But I have an inkling suspicion that we're gonna be talking about them a lot this year. So
I mean, we'll probably talk about them a lot and how disappointed we are. So Cookie's obviously delusional.
Oh, okay.
Obviously delusional.
All right. Okay, we'll see.
Kris, what were your thoughts? Can we have a bit more of a measured take here? They, of course, hadn't tested at Sebring before, didn't run last year. Their first time at the track was the prologue. Had gearbox linkage issues or something along those lines for a lot of the race. Peugeot, where would we rate them?
Right, yeah, those gearbox issues are exactly right. And some news breaking from between Sebring and now. They're going to switch from what I believe to be a electric gearbox control to a hydraulic gearbox control, and that change will take into effect as soon as Portimao. So we'll get to see the newest upgrade to their car in terms of trying to sustain the reliability. That's going to be interesting to see. I think I agree with Cookie. I think we're gonna have to wait to see until Portimao, because Portimao, that surface, I mean, that's an FIA Grade 1 track. Like that's smooth as a baby's bottom. So if they have problems with Portimao, then we're gonna have to talk if maybe even the concept is, well, even then the concept is more suited to the straight line, like the most on straight, like Cookie is referring to. But still, I think if the things go south in Portimao, or if there's no noticeable improvement, I think then is the time to maybe really get into a discussion on the competence of their reliability.
Yeah, the issue I have with Peugeot at the moment, besides their car being slow, is that the reliability is not something that they seem to have gotten on top of. They had problems at Monza, they had problems at the other races at the end of last season, they had problems here. So it's concerning. And of course, it's easier to make a fast car reliable than a reliable car fast, but
right.
It's an endurance championship, and if you can't make it to the end, then you're going to be in trouble. I would give them a fail mark for the weekend, but we'll see what happens come Portimao.
And always, if I remember at Bahrain, they were like, when we see the start of the race, they were somewhat keeping on tabs with the Toyotas. So the car is capable. It just needs to fix its reliability. That's all it needs.
Just
where it's so easy.
I just want that thing to work, especially because of the fact that, like, the window in which it's operating in, like, it's for sure known, like, from people that know what they're talking about, that the regulations specifically allow this car to work well in the window that it's given. And some of the people that are like intimately involved with some of this stuff that aren't working with the teams but are observing and have to deal with this stuff are kind of like scratching their heads as to why others didn't go the Peugeot route either. So, which is surprising to me, because it's just like, it is an outlandish concept, but at the same time, it does feel very, very similar to the Nissan GT-R LM project, where their focus wasn't on winning every single round of the World Endurance Championship. It was specifically to go win Le Mans. And if they can get this concept to work, especially like in the way that it seems like it does work really well, which it should run well at Le Mans, like this could be a whole thing of like, well, they're just not going to run well here, but we know where they're going to run well at, kind of thing. So we'll see. That's
fair enough. And yeah, for a ground effect car to work, you need like that envelope underneath the car to remain super duper consistent, and that does not jive well with 80-year-old concrete
The
blocks.
worst track ever made, or something.
Exactly,
right?
the
Right,
worst
Mike?
track ever made. When you
The worst track
when
ever made.
resurfacing a track would make it literally awful, then you know you've done. Anyway, that's another conversation. LMH will finish up with the Glickenhaus and with the Floyd Vanwall racing team. The Vanwall made it to the finish as the second to last classified car. 24 laps down, and the Glickenhaus did not make it to the finish. They retired after about 2 hours with intermittent problems that became slightly less intermittent and slightly more permanent. Let's go with Glick first. They didn't test much over the off season. They turned their traction control off in the prologue because they were trying to figure out what the heck was going on with the new tires. Is the dream over? Is the dream coming to an end?
I think it is. I know it seems like it's the boy that cries wolf story every year. Like, oh, it's their last year in WEC. I really think it is. The fact that they didn't even test at all over the last year, I think they're running into some money problems. I think they were really hoping on some more customer cars and getting the money for the program that way, and that's clearly not happening. So judging from what we're seeing, I think I'm comfortable saying that after WEC Monza, that's probably the last we'll see Glick in the WEC. I think they're gonna be I think because when they entered, the competition was thin. They had much more chances of capitalizing on success, getting podiums and getting poles like we saw in years prior. But now that we have all these manufacturers coming in, I'd imagine the BOP, like we saw in Sebring, is not going to be as kind to them as we saw in the past. So I do think this will be the last time we see them in the WEC in Hypercar. They could possibly do that GT3 program they've been talking about, and I hope they do, because I do think they'll have more success and make more money that way. And hopefully, and they're not even racing at the Nürburgring this year.
Yeah, that is a shame.
So I think I take that as a sign that they're putting all of their money and more in the Hypercar program and hoping something sticks. But yeah, I think the dream is over.
What are your thoughts, Cookie? That's a beautiful looking car, but it's not got much else going for it at the moment.
No, what Kris said pretty much.
Okay.
He made all the major points. I mean, they didn't test. The reliability isn't there. Like they can't finish a race consistently on pace. And yeah, I mean the dream was over when they couldn't get a customer to buy a car. Like as soon as they couldn't do that, and then they also couldn't consistently field two cars, like it was over. There's just they just needed a backer to then come in, which is becomes way more remote after you've kind of like dropped your first deadlines of announcement of the car, and like if they would have had three cars at some point on the grid, I think they would be in a way better position now than they would have been. But because they could only field two, and those are both basically quote unquote factory cars, nothing really happened, and they had opportunities to win races, but reliability bit them. So even if they had the opportunity to win again this year, I don't trust the reliability not to bite them in the butt again, and not give them that first win that they were looking for.
The second car at Le Mans is a customer car, but that's only for Le Mans. The customer only wants to race it for Le Mans, so they're only paying for Le Mans. The rest that they're spending on their own dime. So that's and apparently Maxi Götz was going to race with the second Glickenhaus and bring over BWT sponsorship, so we possibly could have seen a pink Glickenhaus, but the results at Sebring, there's some suggestions that maybe that deal has fallen through, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that. But yeah, like as the kids say, it's Jover.
I hate it.
Damn it.
In saying that though, Glickenhaus did get both cars to the end of Le Mans twice, including taking a podium. So, the program isn't a complete failure, but yeah, that is a little bit of a shame. What about Vanwall? They were slow, the car looks weird, and they ran into problems. What do we think?
C-.
C-. They're gonna pass.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think great. Compared to what we've seen from them in the past, let me just say that. But like I think
Dude, even
Jock
compared to
Jones-
Glickenhaus.
yeah, like the only problem we've seen from that car was like the first hiccup in Free Practice 3. The rest of the time, the car, from what I've seen, seemed to never have any issues. It just kept, obviously, as a non-hybrid, it's not going to be up to the pace as the other hypercars, but it kept chugging along. It kept capitalizing on other people's misfortunes. It was a capable car.
It was reliable.
It
Which you need to finish endurance
It
rounds.
finished 24 laps down. It was in the pits for 3 hours.
Well, what do you want from us? We're giving grades.
It finished
how this
24
works.
laps down.
It was in the pits because the car snapped on the end of turn 17. It wasn't like it could have been. I mean, Jacques Villeneuve was in the car, so it easily could have been driver error.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. Yes, but it's the same thing as we haven't seen the Ferraris race yet, so they could have been they're not on the pace of the Toyotas, and I'm not going to discount them for their pace yet. This is just a lot of this too is this is the first time we're seeing these cars on track, and especially with the Vanwall, they've had minimal testing. At least, I mean, they don't have minimal testing, but they damn sure don't have a lot of testing on that car. And I was impressed to see him show up at Sebring, their first race with that thing, and do pretty decently with it. So I'm okay with it.
Okay, whatever. You guys are, as I said, delusional.
We're being nice, man. Yeah, we're being delusionally nice. Take advantage of this.
Too kind. Yes, as we mentioned, they finished the second to last classified car. That's fine. They did beat Peugeot, so, they did win something there. And apparently Peugeot gets a B+ for some god-awful reason, so, whatever.
I'm jumping on that hype train now, so you better watch out. I've jumped on, I'm a Toyota fan, I'm a Ferrari fan, and apparently now I'm a Peugeot fan, so best watch out, because I'm just going to like every single car in the hypercar field until...
You just want everyone to have a nice, wonderful time.
I like storylines, man. Get out of here.
That's true.
Yeah,
Brief storyline LMP2. We saw the Hertz team Jota come through and win that race pretty impressively, it must be said. They beat United Autosports and Prema on the podium, so well done them. Dorian Penn gets a podium. Well done for her. We'll skip talk about LMP2 because we've got plenty more.
There's so much stuff. Yeah, we're already running behind here.
We are. Question as we wrap up the WEC. Was GTE-Pro missed?
No?
Kris?
I think a GT-Pro class is always welcome, but the competition in GTE was fine. There wasn't a point where this race was much better with the GT Pro class.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. It was fine.
Cookie, do you want to elaborate on your no very quickly? 30 seconds?
Partially with Kris, but yeah, I just at this time right now, I just don't I don't need to see any more GT3 in my life, even though we will be soon. But I just didn't feel the need that I needed to see an immediate GT a pro class GT battle at the moment. All the GTM battles were awesome and fine, and they were interesting on their own. They had enough storylines by themselves.
Speaking of storylines, first ever GT-AM race for a brand new Corvette C8, not one of the ones from the program, but a brand new car. Ben Keating jumps into it with Nicola Verona and Nick Katzberg and just takes a win, like we expect from Ben Keating at this point.
Yeah, American know-how. Yeah.
And if you watch the full access that was just posted on the WEC YouTube channel, I love that one of the first scenes is literally just Ben Keating with someone on an airboat, and this is powered by big displacement, big power. It's this is America, baby.
God damn it!
Ben Keating an airboat. He's gonna start an airboat dealership up soon. You know that. It's coming.
Yep.
Okay.
You can't run from it.
That was the.
Nope, can't do it.
The Corvette, it would have been. I think it would have been much closer, if the Iron Dames didn't go off at the end of turn 1 and just have the rear of the car just fall off after.
Yeah.
I wanted that qualifying lap was awesome.
Yeah, it's
awesome in GTM. We were hollering in our campsite watching that shit. That was awesome.
Sarah Bovey is kind of ridiculous as a bronze driver.
Yeah.
That was incredible. And
turn 17 exits with the dust like kicking up every time. Everybody's like, "Why is she doing that?" And then it just grabs pole. Like, this is awesome.
When that ripped the entire diffuser and rear end off that car, so desperately wanted to make the joke, and I'm going to make it now, but I'm going to add context that way I don't get like destroyed by people on the internet. When the same thing happened to the Pro Porsche a few years ago, I was making jokes. There was plenty of jokes going around that it was like, Porsche upskirt pics because it ripped the whole diffuser off and you could see all the way into the engine bay. And I was about to make that joke in the live chat. It's like, Iron Dave's up. Can't say that.
Oh boy.
Can't say that. But no, like that pole lap was amazing. They were really quite competitive, and it was unfortunate that they had that problem. And quickly, another problem for a car in GTE-AM was it Luis Perez Compagnac putting the car on its roof after like 3 laps? That was a bit terrifying.
The second lap, actually, he like got target fixated with the first 2 cars battling, and then just like missed his braking point by like at least a mile, and just sent it off into T1 exit. Like, nuts.
Yeah.
That tire wall has flipped like 8 cars over the last like 7 years, it feels like.
Okay, let's this was raised by Kiwi Kris in our pre-discussion. We're going to quickly divert, and we've got what's the time now? We've got literally 2 minutes to talk about this.
Okay.
Why are cars getting flipped onto their roofs at that tire barrier? Because it doesn't just happen once. As you said, it's happened like 6 or 7 times in the last 4 years. Like,
I hate I'm going to say this, but because it isn't paved. I just said it. I said it. Oh my god, I said it.
So
I said it. It's because it's not paved.
It's because it's got the grass to the edge of the barrier.
Yeah, and apparently Sebring likes to just not take care of any of their like, any of the little ditches or ruts or anything like that. Not like they need to, but it's not like it's the smoothest, ground there. There's still anthills and all kinds of crazy stuff, and I don't know, they have like attenuated tire barriers there, which is like tires sitting out, like not attached to anything to stay secure. So
no belts,
Yeah, they just need a Tefco barrier kind of thing, just run on the outside of that until a certain point that, for the T1 exit, that kind of thing. But I really don't like that.
You don't like that you've said it, but you know it's true.
Yes. I like cars flipping over there too. It's it dissipates energy. It looks cool. I love cars flipping. So, drivers are okay, but it's a fun-looking crash.
It's probably scarier to look at than it is behind the driver's wheel, but dude, like the way that car sort of bounced up and then flipped over, it's kind of terrifying. And like Sebring's not the only place that it happened. I have vivid memories of it happening at Mosport with the dive down the hill. I think it was one of the LMP2 cars, which was like a team that I can't remember, but it was like a
Mosport, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it PR1 in the Ligier?
No, that was Road Atlanta when it went off at turn 5 and Ollie Pla tried to mount the tire barrier at the exit of turn 5. This was I think it was one of the Delaras that wasn't a Cadillac. But
no, I thought it was a Ligier. I thought that one, because it was rain. It was like inclement weather, rain, and it went off at the end of the long straight.
No, this is a different one. This is a different one I'm talking about, where it went down the hill. It was like Junkers Racing. That was it. Where it just came down the hill and launched over the tire barrier. This is something that seems to happen in America all the time. So.
Yes. Okay. Also, here's the answer. FIA grades don't really have a priority or existence here.
Yeah.
As I'm doing wild gesticulations with my hands. As we speak. So
because Europe, everything was tailored for Formula One. Here we obviously we had a whole ocean separating us, and we were so isolated, and we only really cared, okay, what does our domestic series need?
Yeah. Okay.
So
or not even need.
So it just came to the point where people are fine with just having the tents, and obviously the tracks like that because they don't have to pay for the massive sums of money for actual pit garages along pit lane.
Yeah.
So it's just a different way of doing things.
Cool. As long as that different way isn't unsafe, then I am okay with it. We're moving on. IMSA. Let's talk about IMSA. Do we want to do the Hypercar or the GTP report card specifically for the cars that are in GTP but not in Hypercar?
Basically, Acura, they're fine. BMW improved. There we go.
BMW got a surprise podium, and like if you said to me after looking at the prologue at the Raw that BMW were going to get a podium before Porsche was in IMSA, I would have slapped you silly, and then gone, wait, it's IMSA. Literally anything can happen, and it did.
Yep.
So I think. Go ahead, sorry.
You watch WEC for regular stuff, but then you watch IMSA for the NASCAR chaos.
For straight chaos, apparently. Like, this is the thing, right? As a fan of both WEC and somewhat of IMSA, I know that when I missed the WEC race because it started at 1 in the morning, went through to 9 a.m. on a Friday night, that I was going to have to watch the whole thing to sort of understand what happened. With the IMSA race, I knew that all I had to do was watch the last half an hour because that was the only point of the race where anything that was relevant was going to happen, because it was going to be a shit show from start to finish, and I can't say that I'm wrong. Can I?
No.
Yeah.
But that's Sebring, like it's basically like, drivers just getting delirious in their cars because it's too hot and it's too bumpy and they're having headaches and they're just like, they want to kill each other.
Is that Sebring or is that IMSA? This is the question that was posed by Kiwi in our pre-podcast discussion, and I'm going to pose it here now. Is that Sebring or is that IMSA?
It's both, because it's Sebring and people want to win it, and it's IMSA because driver standards are different in the US.
And there's way more cars on track compared to a WEC round.
This is true. So we had 36 cars on track or 37 cars on track for WEC. We had 53 cars on track for the IMSA race. That is almost a car every 100 meters, let alone thinking about the speed difference between these cars.
Which also played a huge factor in the end of the IMSA 12-hour race. So there we go. Traffic.
This is true. So the few questions I want to pose here: was there too many cars? Do we need to think about a minimum driving standard and a minimum license for being involved in these marquee events? How do we fix this problem? And what makes IMSA worth watching? If I'm only gonna watch the last half hour or last hour, why would I watch the rest of it?
So no, and the reason why you would, like you make a good point. They should stop doing the stupid waiver rounds and other stuff and being super crazy caution heavy at the end of the races, because it does take away from the aspect of, okay, well, I want to see how the race plays out and who's actually better or not, instead of like, okay, who gets the lucky breaks so that they just line up right behind somebody with fresher tires and then is in a better spot strategically for no reason. So I'll give you that, but I thought it was a great race. And the difference is that like it's a regional series, and that the acceptable standards of racing for the drivers in them are going to be slightly different. There was a lot more AM drivers that were competing in there. I think it's also just the level of, I don't want to say the talent field, but just like when people are approaching that series, like there is a driving standard difference between, I feel like, IMSA driving and WC driving. There's a little bit more like, you're in the US, so there's a bit more bump and run kind of thing. Like I don't think it's a massive thing of like, okay, this is just very loud, it's out in the open, but I do feel like, Formula One drivers coming from Formula One drive differently in IndyCar. I mean, like, and it's not necessarily because IndyCar is a spec series, but it's also because IndyCar just races in the United States, and there's just the way that Americans are used to driving, or at least how the battles work and the legendary stuff is slightly different. Like, there's just so many legendary moves and battles and stuff like that have gone down in history, specifically in the United States, that are just like beating and banging, or like almost shorting a course, doing something crazy. And those are the memorable moments that are remembered. And I think that, just that is almost subconsciously a thing that, goes through drivers' heads, especially when they're racing in these series like that. And, I don't know. I mean, they could definitely have like a Mario Andretti figure, like get up there and start demanding better driving standards for him. But at the same time, like there are, if anything that needs to be done, just improve the safety for the courses. Just make sure that the drivers all can walk away when they run into each other. But
yeah, fair.
I don't know. I don't like, and as an American, I'm numb to it, so I don't really have a problem with it, because I I don't mind it. It's enjoyable to me. So
Okay,
I just don't like the stupid wave around stuff. That's annoying.
That is annoying. But I would argue that almost has to be a safety procedure in place when you have, as I said, 53 damn cars in 5 different classes on the same
More
track.
cars.
Huh?
What are you talking about, man? More cars. I want more cars.
Yeah,
I want as maximum amount of cars as humanly possible on the track at all times.
I do think the limit is 60, like Daytona. So because you had
They fit 61 or 62 cars at Sebring before. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's basically like Le Mans cap. That's basically it. So.
Well, the difference in this instance though is that Le Mans is what 13.6 kilometers. So 60 cars are around 13.6 kilometers. Every car has like 200 meters of track, and like that's not enough sometimes. At Sebring, every car has like 100 meters, and that's clearly not enough given how bumpy, how narrow, and how difficult the track is. Despite
makes it tough.
Despite what Jeb said in our Daytona podcast about LMP3 being a direct line from region, like the lower series into the main game, I would make a strong argument that having LMP3 class with the amount of amateurs in it, with the speed of the cars, with how cluttered it makes the grid in the top category of IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, I think it's not appropriate to have the LMP3 class in that category. So we shall see what happens to that in the future.
Oh, they're gonna end up for this year anyway. So
yeah, you're probably gonna get your wish because it seems like the writing is on the wall for the team because we just had reports this past week that a bunch of like 5 or 6 LMP3 teams are eyeing up LMP2 programs for next year. So it's a little bit of a monkey's paw. LMP3 is gone, but the drivers move up a rung at the faster cars.
Oh joy! Bloody hell. Okay, we'll kind of circle around a little bit of a loop-de-loop, and I want to make a point as well that while, we were just landing on the wave around, as I mentioned, I think that's a bit of a safety thing, but also, if I was going to the 12 hours of Sebring, and I was watching the 12 hours of Sebring, and I had a cumulative 4 hours of full course yellow, including how much in the last hour, including, I think, 35 minutes of the last hour under full course yellow, I'd be pretty miffed. What are your thoughts on that? Because it's not really 12 hours of Sebring at that point. It's like an 8 hours of Sebring in the middle.
It's really a tough position because people, complain and waffle about, using full course yellows and code 60s for IMSA. They probably can't because I believe legally speaking in North America, you can't have marshals go over the wall on active racetrack. You have to marshals can't go over the track, period. Like in Europe or maybe Australia where they can just go out under a full course yellow or code 60 and pick up a piece of debris or whatever. We can't do that in the States. And I would imagine it's because of, insurance reasons, where if they allow them to do that under an active racetrack, insurance rates skyrocket, and that leads to them not affording, not being able to afford insurance.
And so IMSA has its own, trackside recovery team as well. So, none of the flag marshals do any trackside recovery at all.
This is correct. They use the American AMR medical response team. So they get for their medical workers, and then they have actual track workers like in the trucks you see. And another point, this is a quote from Jeb. When you watch an IMSA race and you see a car that crashed or a car that was stranded, and you see a bunch of those trucks, a lot of people make the jokes like, why are all those trucks there? There's actually a good reason for those trucks. So basically, 1 or 2 of them will act as crush trucks, basically blocking the view of the accident. So if a car, heaven forbid, loses control, it hits the truck. And the trucks are not high up in the ground where they're gonna, basically Bianchi it. It's a rough way of saying.
Yeah.
It. They're not high. But basically, it's a way so they hit the trucks instead of the active
people, yeah,
and not the active situation where there's workers on the ground in the car. So it's tough because insurance reasons suck. I think we can all acknowledge that. And plus, I think I really wish that maybe if there's like they can utilize the full course yellows because I think that would really fix everything. Because I think the caution procedure would be fine if there wasn't as many cautions. I think like because I think it's a different way of doing it, and the people who complain about it are not going to be happy because Le Mans and SRO are going to be utilizing the same procedure except the class splits, but they're going to be like they're going to have a like even Le Mans like you're going to have a safety car. If you're ahead of the class leader, you're going all the way up to the back of the line. So they're doing that whole procedure with Le Mans and SRO. So it's like, well, we're gonna have more of this, so buckle up.
Look, it's not so much that I have a problem with. It's the fact that every minor incident, and like for a lot of times it is minor incidents. So like, of course, the 8-car fracas at the end is a different story, but every minor incident requires a 25-minute period of a break in racing. And like I'm looking at the caution periods. There's a flag analysis on results.imsa.com which shows you when the cautions were called and how long they were, and each of them are 25 minutes long. And it's like that's a lot of racing that you're not doing for things that are as simple as picking up a piece of debris or moving a car off the side of the circuit. So it's one of those. To me, it's you're taking away racing for you're neutralizing it for too long for reasons that you shouldn't really be doing it. But that's just me as an outsider's thing. That's why I said I can just watch the last hour of the race and know all that was worth knowing about the race effectively.
And another thing, if we're going to compare the two different series, WEC will only have 30 something cars in a race, and most likely not all of them are going to pit during a a full course yellow or something along those lines.
Yeah.
IMSA, you easily have over 30, 40, even 50 cars. And considering the fact that, let's see, 3 of the classes are Pro-Am and Am, and those pit crews may not exactly be, professionals, or they're just doing it for, like, you know what I mean. They're not top of the line. They're usually people who volunteer or are not as experienced. That can create a dangerous situation on pit road where you have 50 something cars all going in at once with all those people. So like it's tough.
Well, I want to pose then, is that sustainable? Is that something that we should like, Cookie said, give me more cars, give me more chaos, give me more of that. But like, is there a point, and are we at that point wherein safety paramount car count? And to drive this point home, I'm going to read a section from the Daily Sports Car. What did we learn from the Super Sebring? So this is Graham Goodwin's editorial, basically. He said, there surely should be a minimum standard applied to allow drivers to compete at the championship at this level to ensure their own and their competitors' safety. Should they have a rookie test for bronze drivers before the race, like SRO does? Should we be putting in a minimum standard? And should we, take some cars out? Because, 56 cars, if you got 56 cars on pit road, that's crazy. If you got 56 cars on the track, that's crazy. If you've got 56 cars starting behind the safety car, that's also kind of crazy. You could argue that's why we're having all these incidents and why we're having these cautions so close together.
I think I agree with a minimum standard. Maybe you have to have competed in IMSA before and have to be shown at least competent, or something along those lines, like the support series or something. Like that was one of the problems with the Prototype Challenge. They would just bring in any old guy off the street with a bunch of money to put him in one of those Prototype Challenge cars, and it'll just cause absolute mayhem. So I do think, especially if they're getting rid of LMP3, like if you're racing LMP2, chances are a bunch of these guys already raced before. B, they already raced in IMSA supports in the past or other racing experience, WEC, ELMS, etc., etc. I do think I do agree on that. I think there should be at least some form of minimum precedent set there. Some people will complain and act like, oh, it's a good old boys club. Oh, they're just choosing who and
Yeah.
what to race. And people are, but this isn't like the IMSA where they were like, struggling for entries and it was just a, regional, it's really grown past the point of that, I think.
Yeah, I
So
tend to agree.
I do agree with a minimum standard on that.
Cookie, you're awfully quiet.
Boo, all of you. What's wrong with you people? No, no. I mean, I think the market will correct itself. You definitely have a lot of classes that didn't necessarily have to, or had the ability to fill themselves or to be competitive in terms of needing to beat out another team to be on the grid outside of like Daytona or something like that, especially this year. So I think this is kind of new territory for a lot of people where next year is going to be selective. We're looking at even more cars entering that previously have not entered, teams that are going to be switching over, that kind of thing. So I have a feeling that the driving standards will just increase by the competitiveness of the teams trying to enter this championship. And then again, just to stress that this is just something that we haven't, we're very fortunate to be in this position because, I mean, I don't know if we'd be even remotely wanted to talk about this, I don't even know, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about 30s, just over 30 car grids for the 12 hours at Sebring in November of 2021, or 2020.
We were talking about Daytona not that long ago, having 39 cars for the 24-hour. So
yeah, I think it's a knee-jerk observation. I'm not going to say it's a reaction or anything yet. I just think it's too soon to implement some driving standards on this yet, specifically with what we're going to see coming up, and two, because it's just like I didn't find the amount of with the driving standards acceptable at Sebring, but I don't think that is a average of the Sebring or of the IMSA field. It could just be an outlier, specifically of being Sebring and getting used to the level of LMDH hypercars, all that stuff. I do think that sure, more cars will be the higher chance for cautions after cautions are to come out, but I don't know. Like again, nothing seemed to leap out to me that I would feel like it was pointing directly at the driving standards. I just thought that was just some of the stuff was unfortunate that how it ended and how we did get more cautions after certain stuff, but I don't know. I didn't really see a lot of it being too much on the driving standards outside of a couple of key incidents. So
okay, that's fair.
Not enough to do any changes, in my opinion.
That's fair enough. I will just finish up on this conversation by sharing a tweet by Antonio Garcia, who was driver of the GTE-Pro Corvette. He said after the race, sharing the overhead image of the crash that took out both Porsches and the leader of the GTP class at the time. We went from a great show to a shit show. It was the third time I was turned around or used as a braking device in the last 30 minutes. And that's pretty damning, especially if you're in a GTD Pro car. Like, yeah. I understand,
for sure, yeah. I mean,
understand
it's
that,
not
like, rubbing's racing, but also, like, racing isn't, using other drivers and other cars as braking support.
For sure. Then that's something that the race control needs to be monitoring more and cracking down on. I don't see where setting a driving standard is going to fix anything, because if anything, I don't think that's the dentists that are rubbing into Antonio Garcia. At least it doesn't seem like it to me, unless like that's what he was referring to, was a lot of the amateur drivers are just using him as an extra braking tool. But that just seems kind of more like the GTPs and other guys are just kind of like nudging him through the corner, or at least just trying to slide it in. Unless he's talking about LMP2 and LMP3. But yeah. I'm not sure what who in these specific references he's talking to or talking about. Because if it's like pro drivers that are doing that, then yeah, that's that needs to be a whole other conversation being talked about.
Okay. We're running out of time. Let's just quickly talk about IMSA results. Number 31 won the race after, the top three seppuku themselves. LMP2 winner, John Ferrano, Tower Events, Tower Motorsports, with Simpson and Scott McLaughlin. What?
Yeah, wow.
Overall podium.
Not that I didn't expect him to win, but yeah, it was, and the overall podium too.
And that was after they were involved in an accident a couple hours before the end.
Yeah,
Yep.
Wild. Absolutely wild with that. LMP3 leaders were the Riley, Guy Robinson, Felipe Fraga, and Josh Burden, another Australian on the podium, or winning that race there. So awesome for the class win there. FAF Motorsport took GTE-Pro. They have won, FAF Motorsport, just quietly, half of all GTE-Pro races that have happened so far. Half of them.
How did they not get a GTP deal or anything to go run that LMDH? I don't know. Like they should be running. They should be like the first privateer running a LMDH for Porsche.
Well, they're Canadian, so they saw that other people were interested. It's like, no, after you.
Oh, after you. Oh, sorry. Did I skip you?
Like, would it be crazy to think that FAF might be running the Porsche factory GTD program or the factory GT3 program for WCE soon?
I mean, I don't know if they can expand to that many cars. I don't know. I don't know what their situation looked like, but like, holy God, they're killing with their driver line and some setups. Lawrence Vantor is awesome. Especially just that their lineup in that FAF car is just crazy. So I like it. None of this surprises me. It's just kind of like, I would almost want to see it. Like, I feel like they're just killing everybody. They're crushing everybody in GTD-Pro. So it's just, all right, well, go do something better, and they have the opportunity with Porsche. So that's kind of where my thing is, like, all right, you guys are just killing it. Let's like start doing something better kind of thing. Yeah. Which speaks a lot to how good their team is right now.
Yeah. And GTD was won by the number one, Brian Sellers, Matt Snow, and Corey Lewis. Paul Miller Racing.
Yeah.
Cool.
They are very good at racing.
At the Paul Miller Racing. Wrap up Super Sebring. There has been a lot of supposition going around at the moment that this will be the last Super Sebring. What happens next for Super Sebring? Do we see Super Sebring next year?
No.
No? Why, Cookie?
Because WC, well, because of all this stuff, Qatar and the prologue kind of isn't great for WC running at Sebring because it's completely useless for actual like legitimate data outside of does my car run well in bumps? Yes, no, okay, well then here we go. Here's the next race. And then Friday is awful because it's just. They can't bring as many specific sponsors and fans in to see the race because it's a weekday, not a weekend. So that really kills it too. And it's, it's not even necessarily that they're playing second fiddle to the race, but they are playing it, second fiddle to the race weekend. So like, I feel like if they could somehow have it where the 12-hour Sebring was racing on Sunday and they race on Saturday, that would be the absolutely perfect world, but that's just not how it works. And they're not going to race after the 12 hours of Sebring. So in terms of like the logistics for this week, for like current way, I don't see how that works. I've heard potentially they do it later in the year. I've even heard that they're maybe looking at doing it a week earlier than Sebring, so that they would, the weekend before the 12 hours of Sebring would be the WC round, which would be unbelievable for people that would be camping there, because it would just be 2 weeks. We'd just be there for an entire, like, both weekends, and not even move. So I'm all about that. But yeah, so, and so obviously then, Penske, everybody assumes they're going to do a WEC race in Indianapolis eventually because, his influence is infinite and almighty. He is the motorsport lord.
Yeah.
And so,
Penske is bigger than the WEC.
Apparently. Yeah. I mean, he's bigger than everything pretty much. So I think the cars are against them doing the same weekend next year. My fingers are crossed that they do something back to back. That would be great. Or if they end up going to another American track that isn't Indianapolis, or Coda, I would love that. Just to mix it up a little bit. But it would suck to see them go. Although at the same time, and I think I said this to Graham too when he was stopping by our campsite, it was just kind of, I think the thing too is the 12 hours of Sebring is just, that is the 12 hours of Sebring. Yeah. And my whole opinion would just be if anything, if you're going to try to continue Super Sebring, you find a way to like merge them a la 2012 or do something like that where it is a single race and you're working out points or something like that somehow in a different thing, but everybody's just competing for the same honors and the same overall win. Like that's how it should go, and not do the 2 races. That would be my way to do it. But then again, they've made so much money from this and so much attention from it being a Super Sebring event. I don't think they're going to just try to like, they would ever want to go, let's just merge, because they know that they can make money with 2 separate events. So,
if we're struggling with 56 cars on track for just IMSA, how are we going to get the entire WEC field into that as well?
It'd be like 2012.
All over again.
Be like that race.
Yeah.
That was fun. I enjoyed that. I know everybody didn't like that, but I loved that. That was great.
A blight on sports cars history.
That was fantastic.
I have a supplementary supposition or proposition.
Okay.
What if you ran the the Sebring 12 hours a bit more like Le Mans, where you have every IMSA entry gets an automatic entry into the Super Sebring, but you invite the hypercars from WEC, and like when they're all on GT3 platforms, like some of the GT cars, like, and you have like a capped 50 car grid, and you have like mostly IMSA, but also like a sprinkling of WEC to have it as a kind of pseudo standalone, kind of like Le Mans. Would that be something that would be interesting to the American audience?
It would be interesting to make an audience, but I don't see them biting on it unless, unless their expenses were paid for something. So my whole thing was like, you have to incentivize it, and it's really stupidly hard to incentivize something where you can't give anybody points. You can't really give anybody any acclaim. The only thing that I could think of, which is no, is that's how you get a third car. Or that's how you get more than 2 factory cars. You have to enter 12 hours of Sebring and compete in the 12 hours of Sebring, and then you are officially allowed to use more than 1 or 2 chassis of your manufacturer type or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
The people that are entering 3 cars, they have to enter in the 12 hours of Sebring with that extra car or something in order for them to be allowed to run that at the 24 hours of Le Mans. You could do something like that where it's just enough incentive potentially to get some of these teams out here to at least race in the 12 hours of Sebring, even though there might not be points available to them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So maybe something like that.
Fair enough. One round back, you said somewhere other than COTA or Indianapolis for a WC race. Obviously, there needs to be a WC race in America because it's a world championship and there's a market in America.
So much money right now.
Cadillacs in America.
Good God, there's so much money right now in the U.S. that's willing to be spent on motorsports. It's stupid.
So,
it's crazy.
Why not Indianapolis or COTA? Why not those 2?
Because I don't like those personally. So
fair. They're currently doing upgrades to Laguna Seca. I mean, obviously that's not quite big enough.
Oh, made myself laugh at that. No, COTA needs to go away. It, I mean, at least the people managing COTA need to go away. So until they go away, which they won't, COTA needs to go away because it just does not know how to operate or run anything remotely like a normal motorsport venue, and they're crazy. So yeah, COTA's. I don't want to ever see WC going back to COTA because they're just going to mess it up and make it all really bad experience again for WC fans, which have already stated their opinions quite obviously on previous COTA rounds, the World Endurance Championship. So
and also the kind of races at the WC are kind of crap. The only good ones I can think of was when it like pissed down with rain. Through.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Like it completely randomly just downpoured and had like. Some parts of the track were completely just glazed over with water. Like Audi's just running into
it was
like
not the
tire
World
barrier.
Endurance Championship, it was the World Sailboat Championship at that point.
Yeah. And pivoting exactly to Indy, that's not really a great venue either. And I'm sure they're not going to make anything available really fan friendly. Like I doubt they're going to open up the golf course areas where you can like kind of walk on the other side of the backstretch in the infield and do a bunch of that other stuff to allow fans to actually observe the track. And it's not really, it's a flat, like not like even the corners at Indianapolis and the infield aren't interesting to me. Like
Yeah,
there's
that's
just
fair.
nothing that's appealing to that track. So
Well-
I'm sure Indianapolis will do really well when it will become a permanent member of the WC calendar in like 2 or 3 years. I just don't want to see it ever on there, but it will. So don't worry, people. It will happen.
Okay, well,
It will.
I hate agreeing with you mostly, but I do. I'm not really a big fan of Indianapolis Road Course. Chris, where else can the WC go in the US? If it's not going to be at Sebring, if it's not going to be at Coda, and if we don't want it at Indianapolis, even though it's going to end up at Indianapolis, like what other suggestions are there?
Road
Well-
Atlanta.
Yeah, Endurance Info is actually pointing. They're thinking of maybe doing Super Petite, where WEC would race on the weekend before Petite Le Mans, but that'll open up a whole can of worms of potentially clashing with ELMS season finale. So I don't know how viable that will be, but I think that would be a very fun compromise. I think because I think people wouldn't mind having WEC at Road Atlanta. And me personally, I think that might be for the best because I would love to see like Toyota and Ferrari and all these big people, all these big teams race in the 12-hour because that's the big race. Like I want to go back to the times where you had the American Le Mans series and its regulars there, but then you had the likes of Audi and Peugeot and I want to go back to a period where that's able to happen, where Toyota can come, Peugeot can come if IMSA fixes their car, has to be made in America.
Why are you guys so obsessed with the 2012 12 hours of Sebring? That was so bad.
No, we're not talking about combined racing, Flood.
We're not?
We're talking. No,
Good.
we're talking WEC teams running, just entering the IMSA race. That's all we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, no, I suggested that while you were gone, and Cookie was like, yeah.
Well,
I'd like to see that.
I'm saying the only way you could incentivize that logically would be to open that up, only available. You could run a third car at Le Mans only if you enter a car or you have you field fill at the 12 hours Sebring. Do something where you incentivize it, and then so then you would just have the hypercars that would be there normally in WC would be like, well, I need a third car at Le Mans, so clearly we need to run at this stupid track and this race, and then they would just race at 12 hours Sebring.
I'm glad you've come around and realized that Sebring is a stupid track.
No, I'm using non-American terminology to better relate to our audience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this discussion up. So Super Sebring's not happening again. Where does the WC go in America? Is it going to be Indianapolis? Yes. Do we like that?
No, but I don't think it's going to be there next year.
Okay, cool. So what happens next year then?
I don't know. Road Atlanta.
Road Atlanta, not Road America?
Yeah. No, Road America doesn't really it can't do it. It would be great if it could, but it can't. It's like even a worse track than Sebring in terms of accommodations and blah blah blah.
Oof, that is not a fun time. While Kris just quickly fixes his internet. Hello again. Welcome back.
We're dealing with winter storm, so internet issues is just gonna chalk it up to that.
This is an endurance race, endurance chat live update from a blizzard.
Oh my god!
In northern United States.
Right. Yep.
Can we keep going with the podcast, please?
No, I need to derail this. Okay, so Super Sebring.
We've
what happens now?
Let's talk about the future, please, of the WEC and IMSA. Firstly, we have had a post on a LinkedIn, which has been going around for the last few weeks. The Vanwall 1958 Limited has posted on LinkedIn saying that they are not able to use the Vanwall name in Europe. Basically, they were granted provisional grid place for the WEC, pending the results of that entire freaking stupid licensing malarkey. But they are not allowed to use the name Vanwall for any WEC races in the EU. So, what happens with Vanwall now? What happens with the Vanderwell, the not bicolors?
I think this might give Bicalis a get out of jail free card on just having their car beat Bicalis. I think that's what's most likely going to happen because they show because they have a car.
Yeah.
I don't like, I don't know if they're just going to be like, okay, we understand the legal ramifications of this because from what I understand, if WEC still allows the term Vanwall, like they still promote it on their entry list, their graphics, and they still allow the naming of the car in the EU races. I mean, this is just my pea brain going to work here. I would think that would put the WEC and the ACO under the gun as well. So it's either going to be a complete outright, hey, you're not racing, at least in the EU, or I think which is going to be the more likely of the two, just a complete strip down of anything Vanwall related, and just having the car be Bicalis or something entirely different.
But we know that the WEC doesn't like their entry names to change. I recall back in like 24 or 15 where they had the Saad Morand LMP2 car, which was entered as Saad Morand and paid for as Saad Morand, but it turns out that one half, and I think it was the Saad half, like pulled all of their funding before the season started. But because they were entered as Saad Morand, they had to run as Saad Morand for the entire season. So the WC has, in the past, previously, been very unhappy with entries entries changing their name. And I think that was a similar reason why, like, Manor never ended up happening, because they were entered as CEFC Manor, and CEFC just never ended up fronting up any money, so they didn't want to run under that name, so they just didn't. So, yeah. This whole Vanwall bullshit has been far too complicated, far too much bad press for a race car to happen. Like, why would you go to all of this effort, Cookie, to just have to fight in court to use a name? Surely there are more simple ways to use a brand name for running in the WC, right?
Well, you would think, it's... Look, I'm almost at the point now where this is kind of on the FIA. I'm not really gonna cite. I mean, obviously, Colin Collins is whatever. He's whatever. I don't even want to talk about him too much anyway. But the guy wants to race a race car. He doesn't have a manufacturer, an OEM, even a private one like Jim Glickenhaus, manufacturing a vehicle. He just builds race cars because he wants to build a race car and go race it at WC endurance races or Le Mans. Like, that's what the guy wants to do. So, and the other problem is that his compatriot in the US, Jim Glickenhaus, is extremely outspoken about the aspects that he's not allowed to do this or that because he is a very small boutique manufacturer and he's not one of the big guys. So effectively what you have is Jim Glickenhaus is rich, but another very, very rich guy with very rich backers who essentially is just going, all right, well, I'm now going to just start using legal means to, try to outmaneuver the FIA or ACO's way of trying to keep me out because they just don't want me to race here, but I want to. So it's just a question of now Colin versus the FIA and the ACO going back and forth about a thing of which he wants to race a car in a series that essentially, I guess, doesn't want him to race there anymore. And he just is like, no, I'm going to race here, and I'm going to use weird means necessary so I can do it. I think the Vanwall thing has came back in his face a bit. But I don't see where he doesn't pivot to try something else. I mean, to the same aspect, what is Isoto Franchitti doing? Yeah. How is that any different? They just have way, way more rich, backers to be doing this. They actually have the financial and physical location to actually start doing this a little bit more effectively and efficiently, even though I don't even know what Colin's background is. But, I mean, they're just literally using an IP that they at least own that's like the last car that they made was like 100 years ago.
Well, I mean, it's a similar thing for Vanwall, clearly, but like the thing is, I guess, is that Collins
Like,
doesn't actually own the IP.
My point, well, I get it, but like the point stands is that like if they're gonna make this stupid weird little rule, and then you're gonna have different ways of getting around this rule to race your single make to literally your team's car that they just make race cars and they don't really do anything else, like then make that the hard line in the sand. Don't like then kick out Soto, kick out Vanwall, kick out Glickenhaus if they're not meeting the requirements. Do those things because that's what you said, and don't like tiptoe around this weird little rule that you've put in place. So either get rid of it or enforce it. Like it's now to the point where I'm not upset at Collins for doing any of this and for being an idiot when it comes to Vanwall and clearly using their IP when they have it, and it just stinks that they're not doing more with it, like the people owning Vanwall IP. But whatever, they don't own it, or they own it. So I just this is now starting to be on the FIA, in my opinion. Like they need to be firm and they need to be clear with where they feel these cars should be at and whether they should be allowed to race in these championships. I think at this point, this whole boutique manufacturer needs to just go away. Just kill it. They clearly have the OEMs. If the OEMs want to bitch enough that somebody who's spending like $40 million out of their own billionaire pocket is beating them, well, congratulations, you're now like Formula One. That's just kind of how it goes. If Aston Martin's going to start to become the next Red Bull, then we basically have, F1 dominated by non-OEM marques over there still putting on a good show. So if that's how we're going to pivot to in WC, that should be it. I just think that this is stupid. You're right. It's gone on far too long, but this isn't on Vanwall or Bicoles anymore. This is on the FIA for not doing anything about like clear enforcement of their policy that they decided to put in force to all of these weird little boutique manufacturers and teams. So there we go. There's a rant.
Hot damn.
I had one in there.
Hot damn. And just so people were aware, before we were talking about, before we started recording this episode, Cookie was like, "No, I'm pretty happy with how everything's going. I don't think I have a rant in me today." Hot damn, that was a rant and a half.
I was feeling it.
You raised some good points though. It's a kind of a weird spot because I don't think you want to exclude these privateers, but also you've put a provision in place which is kind of unattainable without doing stuff like this. Like, right. The only reason Glickenhaus is allowed to race is because they race in GTX, because it's not actually GT3 that their SCG006 is in. It's in like SPX in Nürburgring.
Well, they build other cars too, so that's like they have the Baja buggy, and I believe they like they're building stuff.
Yeah. So you have that provision, but like also Isotta Franchitti and Vanwall. This whole thing with Vanwall has just been an absolute mess. I don't understand like just why you would go to all of this trouble to suck, to be at the very back of the grid, but that's fine. And then the other thing as well is like someone's even suggesting a Di Tommaso LMH. I think that was reported on Daily Sports Car.
Yep.
Which is another boutique brand that like people who aren't who are under 20 haven't even heard of. Like when that news broke, people were like, "D who?" So like, it's a bit of a weird thing. So I'm not exactly sure what the answer is, but I know the answer isn't Bicolors at the moment.
Right. The next question too is that if these weird little one make and off brand non-hybrid privateer cars are in, I mean, we're looking at again where it's LMH and LM, and privateer, like where you have a factory and privateers. So then, so it's LMH, it's hybrid and non-hybrids, essentially.
It's LMP1 and LMP1P, which,
we're back to the same thing.
And
so
who remembers LMP1P? Does anyone remember LMP1P? No one does.
Oh, I do. Oh, Rebellion does.
Oh, Rebellion? Who are they?
Oh, they'll tell you how many times they won LMP1P.
The only thing I care about Rebellion's LMP1P days is they got 2 overall podiums, and one of them was because a car got excluded post-race in 2016, which was easily the best year of WEC competition, I think, ever.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Besides Le Mans, sorry, Cookie. Well, I mean, Le Mans was amazing
sure.
until like the last 3 minutes. So,
Well, Le Mans was amazing. Period. Unless you were a Toyota fan, it was a fantastic Le Mans.
It still was a fantastic Le Mans. It was just also heart wrenching. So anyway, again, back to the future. 2 weeks away, we're in Portimao. Holy crap! I'm not used to seeing so many WC races so close together. Because 2 weeks after that, we're in Spa-Francorchamps. Holy cow!
Yeah, this feels like it's the August or like that September, October run, or August kind of, or even way back in the day where you had that Germany round, and then it would like
every 3 weeks was a new race.
Yeah, exactly. So this is this is strange. This is definitely strange.
But
there's like a lot of F1 coming up too.
I mean, but who cares about F1? We're definitely not watching F1 practice right now on my other screen. More cars for Portimao. I think we may be seeing. Actually, I'm not sure if there's more cars for Portimao, but we'll be seeing cars at Portimao soon. 2 more LMH entries. No, Hypercar entries for Spa-Francorchamps that just broke. A second Cadillac, which is quite exciting, and the first LMDH customer car. The Hertz Joda is going to roll out at Spa. It's on the entry list. It's going to happen probably, asterisk. But if there results in LMP2 with anything to go by, that gold Porsche is going to be up in the mix, which is going to be a good time.
Yeah, good times. Let's just see if they can actually do anything at the front of the field.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if we compare Hypercar to like Group C, part of the magic of Porsche in Group C was the fact that all of their customers were as competitive as the factory team were. You know, you think of Yost, you think of Kramer, you think of...
Oh no! I totally get that. They might even beat the factory teams. I'm just, if that Porsche is a pig, you know, you can't put enough lipstick on it.
I mean, no, the pink pig raced in GTE-Pro a few years ago. This is a different car.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Well, it's hey, Flood. Welcome to the Toyota versus Porsche thing. I got a lot of aggression and pent up, frustration and sadness to work through after you guys
you've just been holding
beat
on to
us
this
up
angst. You've been holding on to
for
this
years
angst
and
for 5
years.
Yeah.
No, it's too early for me to bring any of that out. But
no, it's not. Cookie. No, it's not. Kris, your thoughts, Portimao. What are you excited most for in seeing Portimao in a few weeks' time?
Having it be over so we can get the Spa.
Wow.
Sorry, I don't rate Portimao that much.
What?
It's got the Floodman Sebring vibe to it. I'm feeling okay. I actually like Portimao. It's fun.
This is what? This is I will not stand for this Portimao slander.
Yeah. I don't even know where this came from.
I'll be looking. Let's just say this: I'm more looking forward to the NLS race that same weekend.
Wow.
Dang. All right. You know what? That's a take. That's a take. That's solid. That's
the Nürburgring, like the Nordschleife is amazing, but what's wrong with Portimao? What's wrong with Portimao?
It's just there's better tracks out there. It's like
no. You can't just say, "Oh, there's better tracks." Give me reasons. I want like an itemized list of all the things that are wrong with Portimao.
I bet you Kris would like it if there were more trees on the track, like around the track.
Oh my god! Don't even.
I bet you that's it, right? Is that right, Kris? It looks kind of weird just being like a track on a bunch of random hills. Is that it? Does it just look strange?
No, it's great that has. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. Same with Hockenheim.
I mean,
yeah, I agree. Hockenheim was neutered ever since they took away the forest section, though. So.
I mean, yeah, I get Hockenheim, but like
Portimao's
got elevation. It's got compound corners. It's got like
that's like hating on Malaysia.
Yeah, like how did you say such a thing?
Say.
I thought we were all friends here. Now I find out that Kris
Malaysia.
Is a
Don't hang out
hater.
Sepang.
God damn.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised.
It just doesn't like when series are racing at Portimao. I just don't get the same excitement as
God.
I don't know.
Kind of like that. Hungaroring is like that with me too. I don't like that track.
Yeah, but Hungaroring's this kind of Mickey Mouse track where there's not really any cool. Oh, there's like 3 cool corners, but like it's got not got a lot of grip, and the corners are really hard to pass. And the only way you get a good race at the Hungaroring is when there's water. So you're relying on the weather in Hungary to put on a good race, which
That's
kind
true.
of does sometimes. It kind of
That makes sense. But Portimao, Chris, Portimao.
This might be like the first big riff in Endurance Chat podcast history. This might be.
I would take Portimao over Barber.
What?
Easy. Yeah.
Portimao's in like my top 5 tracks.
I don't like Barber. I genuinely do not like that track. I would take Portimao over Barber.
You know what? I think it's only fair that if I have this kind of for Portimao, I'll allow Cookie to have his opinion for Barber.
And then I allow Flood to have his shitty take about Sebring. Look, it's come full circle.
There we go.
I can't believe we're friends. Okay. On that note, I think that's the point.
Let me rephrase. It's good for bikes. Cars just doesn't do it for me.
Okay, at least you said it's good for bikes. At least you said
Barber still sucks.
But yeah, I mean, the weekend we're recording this, I mean, NLS is on 140 something cars for that, bunch of Nürburgring 24 hopefuls. Weekend after that,
cars on that track. God.
Yeah, but the track's also 23 kilometers, a Cookie.
No, we don't need facts in this conversation.
Then the weekend after Easter
Australian
weekend,
slams American with facts and logic.
Right?
Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was going to say Easter weekend, that's British GT at Oulton, French GT Nagaro, GT World Challenge Australia at Bathurst.
Bathurst 6-hour weekend, yes.
As well as Bristol Dirt, that's going to be fun. Nice. The weekend after is WEC Portimao, NLS on that Saturday, and IMSA at Long Beach.
Wow, that's a big weekend.
Yeah. And then we have ELMS the next weekend after at Barcelona. And then we have WEC at Spa the weekend after for the end of April.
Blood, who wins IMSA? GTP.
I mean, Cadillac, but also probably Acura.
Yeah, okay. I see. I would have gone with Cadillac. I feel like they just got that edge right there at that track. We'll see.
Oh, well, it is Long Beach, yeah, and Cadillac, yeah.
That throaty V8.
Well, okay, so what classes are actually racing at Cadillac at Long Beach? Because if they have 56 cars at Long Beach, it's going to be a demolition derby.
It's GTP, GTE-Pro, and GTD.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, it's actually going to be somewhat sane. Sane at Long Beach? I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
No, nope, not at all. How many congestions are going to be at the hairpin? Like 4?
Yes. Every single lap. What's going to happen is the first lap there's going to be a crash at the hairpin. They'll run 20 minutes under safety car, and then there'll be another crash at the hairpin under safety car. So I'll run another 20 minutes.
No, it's IMSA, so someone will be launched into the water fountain.
Oh, yes. Can't wait for that. It kind of wigs me out that there's, like, no wall around the water fountain. Like, what happens if someone does crash there?
Well,
maybe they get wet.
Maybe they should have drove better.
Okay.
Carry on. And with that,
looking forward to a great month of April coming up in terms of sports cars. As Chris made mention, WC, IMSA, ELMS all kicking off. So plenty to be watching on your box. Stay tuned for another episode coming soon of From the Grandstands. Me and Kiwi will get together on Monday. So
Final Stint. We'll do one too.
Yep. When have you guys got that planned?
I don't know. Just now. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
NASCAR. Yeah, we'll definitely be talking NASCAR.
IndyCar.
NASCAR at Circuit of the Americas is going to be a heavy topic, I think.
Oh, God, yeah. Chris is not happy about that race.
Oh,
I'm not too, but yeah, Chris is not. Not pleased.
Okay, I'll leave that well enough alone for now. I hope you guys are enjoying the sort of different formats that we're throwing at you. We're just trying different things and seeing what we're enjoying the most, because that's what's important to us. And if you like it, then that's a huge bonus. And thank you for sticking with us. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Cookie.
Thank you, Flood. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Cookie. Thank you, Flood.
And thank you very much for listening. I've been Michael Zalavari. Peace out!
Gazoo! Oh shit! All right. Well, have fun editing that.
Oh, that's going to be that'll be tomorrow afternoon's job after the Grand Prix, I reckon.
Is it sprint weekend or something? What's going
No,
on?
it's
Oh,
Australia.
okay. Oh, that's right. You're in Australia.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's like actually at a reasonable time for me to watch it with some friends.
Are you gonna watch it with friends?
Yeah, we're gonna do it at a barbecue. It's gonna be really, really nice.
Oh, nice.
It's gonna be
I thought you were like, well, it would be the perfect time to watch it with friends, but I'm not.
If
watching
I had any.
Yeah, I was expecting that segue.
Well, what happened last year? So a few friends of mine from work they're Netflix fans. They're Drive to Survive fans. Which means that like they're into F1, but they've only been into F1 for like a season and a half. So we did the fantasy league last year, and we were all going to catch up together for the F1 race in Australia. But I got COVID. And so we didn't end up doing it. And the only other race that was in a time zone that didn't mean staying up until midnight to watch a goddamn F1 race was Japan, which was the same fucking weekend as the Bathurst 1000. And of course, the Bathurst 1000, like I'm riding for Daily Sports Car that weekend, so I'm gonna watch Bathurst. But all my friends, like my friends from work and the friends outside of work that I've had for like 20 years who have been in this fantasy league, they all caught up without me. The bastards.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Wow. So we're finally doing it where I'm going to go and watch F1 with some friends in person, which hasn't happened quite literally for like 15 years.
Well, hopefully you don't get sick in the next 24 hours.
I'll tell you what, I'm fucking sick of this.